everyone, my name is David and I'm known on the internet as Unity Freedom. So welcome back to my channel. Thank you for subscribing and thank you for the likes of my many past videos. So today I'm going to talk about something that's not spiritual, but something about what we see in the world, and I'd like to make some comments about that. So today, the topic that I will be talking about is about the economy. It's about the neoliberal economy. That economy has caused us to be in the situation that we have today with Donald Trump. So without further ado, I'll come back after these short messages. So today I'm going to talk about neoliberalism, which is the economy that we are in now, and I'm going to talk about the little history of how neoliberalism came to be and why we have adopted it and why it has led to the rise of Donald Trump. So I'm going to read off some of the notes that I have here, and because I can't remember all the facts, so I'm just going to read off some of the notes here, and then I'll make a couple of comments on my own perspective of the economy and why it has led into the rise of Donald Trump. So the neoliberalism economy has its roots in the 1930s, and it took hold from the 1970s to the early 1990s. And the concept of neoliberalism is global free trade and also deregulation. So it's supposed to take away the control of governments and hand it over to corporations and the free market. The concept is that the free market will regulate itself, and the free market will help rise, like the rising tides will help raise all boats. That's the theory. And the idea first got taken and executed by Margaret Thatcher in the UK, and then subsequently Ronald Reagan in the US. And after that, almost every country have taken on the concept of neoliberalism. And of course, what happened next is that because of free trade, companies decided to offshore the production of many of the goods that used to be made in Canada and in the US and in many parts of Europe. And they offshore it to the low-cost countries such as Asia, in this case China. And then because the wages in China were much lower than in North America, they're able to make products that are cheaper. And in a way, it helps lower the cost of the products that we enjoy today. So many things such as computers, textile, parts for the cars, and so forth, many of them began to be offshored to Asia, especially to China. And that made China, which is a great power that it is today, because it benefited from the offshoring of production, manufacturing from US, Canada, and Europe. So of course, in this instance, there are beneficiaries to the neoliberal economic policies, and there are the losers. And the losers were people in the manufacturing sector. Many of the people who work in the manufacturing sector were well paid. They're unionized jobs. But slowly and surely, many of the jobs got lost during the transition from the North American manufacturing hub into the Asian hub. So all the jobs that were paid, highly paid and well paid with benefits, they all shifted to Asia. And that causes a number of displacement for these workers. Many of them, they just know how to manufacture products. They don't have a lot of other skill set to help them transition over. And sadly, many of them have been left behind. And they used to have a high level of lifestyle before the transition, before the offshoring of jobs from North America to Asia. But since the offshoring, many of these people are displaced. And many of them have endured a really difficult life moving forward. And in some of the states in the US, some places are affected heavily, especially when many of these places have been the manufacturing hub for the US for many, many decades. So these people were displaced and they never recovered from the offshoring of free trade. Now, of course, there are beneficiaries as well. So the beneficiaries of neoliberalism are in transport, in communications, and in information technology. So the people who are able to transition their skill set from manufacturing to one of the three new opportunities, new job opportunities, then these people are doing well. And of course, when they are doing well, then they don't really see the other side of the population where many people are not doing well because they cannot transition over to the new job opportunities that can take advantage of the neoliberal policies. So now you have a dichotomy of two sets of people, groups of people where the groups of people who can take advantage of transitioning to the new job opportunities benefit from the neoliberal policies. For those who don't, who cannot transition because of age or other factors, then they get left behind. The rich gets richer, the middle class, some of them gets richer, but more and more people gets poor because of inflation. Inflated prices of homes causes the rent prices to go up, and up to a point that many of them have to live in a one-bedroom apartment subdivided into 4 bedrooms. It's almost like a fire hazard waiting to happen. But this is what it evolved from the infancy of neoliberalism that causes the economy to inflate the prices so high. And now because many people are displaced by the inflation, by inflated prices, by inflated grocery prices. They felt that they need to elect a person that can fix it all. And they actually did in 2016 with the first election of Donald Trump. He was first elected in 2016. But if you look at his history, his track record, he never actually solved the affordability problem. And then Biden came in 2020, and in 2024 there was another election, and Trump got in the second term. So basically, when these people, when they were electing Trump, they were hoping that Trump would solve the affordability crisis. But you think about Trump, where does he come from? Where did he come from? He came from a wealthy family. So does he resonate with the poor and the working class to help fix the affordability crisis? Or think about that. Does he resonate with many of the poor people that is suffering from an affordability crisis? So people just voted for him because they were hoping that he could do the job. But of course, there are other factions of people. They're voting for him so that he can restore the great empire of what was America. And there are people who are voting for him so that he can keep the stock market not crashing. And there are people voting for him making sure that the real estate market doesn't crash. So there are all these factions of people who had voted for him with different interests. And so Trump really represents different interests from the people that wanted him to do what they want him to do. But if you look at what he's doing, he hasn't really achieved all that much. He has said a lot of things, but has he resolved the affordability crisis? He still manages to keep the stock market from imploding. He also manages, right now at least, to keep the real estate market from imploding and from the crypto market from imploding. But for how long? How long can he keep that illusion? So, what happens if someone is unable to deliver the results? You gotta maintain that illusion, the illusion that you have the power. Power is all about maintaining illusion over your people. That's what Hitler did in the 1930s and 40s when he was chancellor and he was engaging in a war with all these countries. He was projecting an illusion, and as long as he wins the war, the illusion works. But why he lost the war was because he was losing the war and he couldn't continue to project that winning illusion that he was winning the war. And of course, when everybody sees, oh, I'm winning, if he's winning, I'm winning too. But when they realize Germany is starting to lose the war, and eventually lost the war, the process of losing the war causes people to doubt that really Germany can conquer and maintain the empire that he thought it could. But it is all about illusion. It is all about Hitler creating excuses, creating targets to maintain a certain illusion. So let's take Greenland, for example. What does Greenland has to offer to Americans? Well, if you look at Greenland, it's a piece of land. Very cold, it's not really comfortable to live in. It's definitely not Hawaii. But if you look at Greenland, America has bases there. It had a huge presence in the past, but they scaled it down. If they truly want to develop Greenland because it has potential natural resources to be developed, they can, because they have a treaty with Denmark. And they have an understanding between Greenland and the US that if they want to develop any natural resources, they can come in. It's like if you ask your landlord to say, hi, I just want to redecorate my house, the house that I'm renting from you, and the landlord says, oh, go ahead, paint the wall whatever color you like, oh, put whatever carpet you like, and then put whatever furniture you like. I'm cool with that. Why not? You're not even paying for the house. You're just enjoying the house. You're renting from it. And America can do that with Greenland. It doesn't have to invade Greenland. It can basically, if they want to develop Greenland into a resource powerhouse, they can. But it will take a lot of money. So why would a country need to invade Greenland? Because if you think about it, you need to invade Greenland, you need an army, which means that you need to spend some money. Now, for a country in America, there's a lot of people who are struggling with inflation, with high costs of living. Have you wondered why would you spend a lot of money to get an army into Greenland when they can use the same money to fund social services and to help these poor people because they're hungry? Wouldn't you get a lot more votes if you feed these people? Here I come, I'm here to help you, I'm here to alleviate your hunger and your suffering with all these benefits. Wouldn't it make sense that it would help these people, and then these people will really be impressed by your assistance, your help, that they might vote you back in or your party back in the midterms? But instead, you would consider invading someone else's territory, spending all this money that could potentially help your own people. It doesn't make sense, doesn't it? Now, we'll talk about Canada. Donald Trump wants to invade Canada. But again, why? We're best friends. We're besties before. If you want anything from us, we can negotiate. There's this North American Free Trade Agreement, CUSMA. If you feel that some certain things are not fair to you, you can negotiate. But instead of that, Trump threatens us with occupation. So again, it doesn't make sense. Why would you upset your best next door neighbor and your best trading partner? And then there is Mexico. Again, threatened to invade Mexico. So if you threaten all these countries, you would have to spend a lot of money, a lot of taxpayers' money to invade all these three countries and to keep it in occupation. Also, if you invade other countries, you have to use soldiers to invade these countries. These soldiers are also taxpayers for America. What happens if many of them die? Well, you're losing a lot of taxpayers. A number of these people are your tax base. That's why in Russia right now the economy is pretty much bust. They're just putting up the illusion that the economy is doing okay, but it's not. The same thing. When you have so many of the taxpayers, potential taxpayers who are your tax base, die in the battlefield, who's gonna pay the taxes? I mean, the bullets, the machine guns, the tanks, the fighter jets, the fuel, those things don't cost free. You need taxpayers or something to pay off. So if you don't have the money, you just borrow money. From whom? From the rich. So when you go to war and you don't have money, because you don't have enough of the taxpayers' base to pay for the cost of the war, what do? You would borrow the money. So where do you borrow the money? You borrow it from the rich. So now the rich has control of the economy, and then the rich benefits also from the war. Because every country right now, they're on deficit spending. They don't have the cash to even pay for all the benefits that they give to their people, so they have to borrow and pay the interest on the loan. But if they go to war, then who benefits the most? The rich. Because then they loan the money, and then they let the young people, the boots on the ground, shed the blood, and the rich makes the money from interest payments from the government. So the taxpayers not only fund the cost of the war, but also fund and pays the interest for the money the country borrowed to engage in a war. So the benefits goes to the rich. So now you come to think about it, Trump is approaching this as a way for him to hold the power. To hold the power, the illusion of power, that America is the greatest nation by using force. But if you look at in Canada, Mark Carney uses a different approach. Instead of using power to force other countries to do what Carney wants, Carney actually goes around and do trade deals. And he also realizes that the cooperation and the friendship between Canada and the US is pretty much gone. So he understood this, and he went around to China to secure trade deals. So now we will have inexpensive electric vehicles being imported at a lower tariff of 6.1% instead of 100% that was set by Justin Trudeau just a few years ago. But Carney had decided that the best approach to cooperation is to create trade deals with other countries. And in Europe, they're doing also the same thing. And many countries that now they rely on trading with the United States have decided that they want to have a trade deal partner that they can trade on, they can rely on, they can provide stability, not chaos. They can know that if I make a trade deal with you, you're going to stick to the deal, and you're not going to change the deal. You're not going to add tariffs one day and then take off tariffs the other day, and increase the tariff when you already made the deal. That's what the amount we agreed upon, but you change the deal. So all these are just instability that many businesses don't want to get themselves into. Businesses often want stability. And if you don't offer the stability that businesses look for, they'll just go somewhere else. And Carney was a former businessman, understood that in order to have trade with other countries, we have to be the one that is willing to trade and to offer that stable platform so others can trust us, can build that sense of cooperation between us. And so this is what Mark Carney decided to do. He acknowledges that it is through cooperation and through mutual understanding and respect that you can have trade flowing between two countries or multiple countries. And then people can benefit from the trade. And I think that by doing so, because now the US is not setting the tone, because in the past, US was setting the tone on how business is conducted. But now each individual country is conducting their own business their own way. So if the businesses are conducting based on each country's needs, then the country can help address the issues of the people. Because if you need the support from the people, then a country and the government has to work for the people and understand what the people needs. Because right now, many countries do not understand that housing is essential for the growth of a nation. If housing is so high, how could the people afford to buy anything else? All the income goes towards housing, goes towards paying for the mortgage, paying for the rent, and there's really nothing else left to spend on. And no matter what you do, when you don't have domestic consumption, like what you see in China, China has a export industry. They can export things outside, but they don't have a strong domestic economy because of China's housing crash. People are now repaying the debt, are basically repairing their balance sheet, and that causes people to spend all their money into repaying the loans, the debt. And that doesn't do the economy any good. So I think that the government, at least with Canada, is trying to go with an approach that by trading with other countries, you create more well-paying jobs in order to trade with these well-paying jobs to create industries that support the new trade. And it's not specifically designed to accommodate just the United States, but accommodate different countries that you're trading with. So hopefully you create more of these jobs. Now, people like to trade with you if you don't bully people. But what happens if the United States is to go ahead and invade Greenland? There are consequences of that, because then what happens next is that people will think twice about trading with the US, because they don't see the US as a mutually respectful country. People want to trade, but they don't want to trade under duress. So whether or not Trump wants to invade or not invade, I think that the answer is pretty clear. When you use force to invade other countries will not stand by. The benefit lies on the rich. Either way, the rich doesn't get their hands dirty. The rich benefits both ways. In the defense industry, they make money from that. In the lending industry, they make money from that. They get paid interest, but they don't have to do anything. It is the innocent people who have to carry the guns and fight for the war. They're the one that sacrifices. Okay, this is it. Thank you very much for listening to my talks. Until next time, please subscribe to my channel. And this is David saying goodbye.